There's a level of discipline that does not look inspiring. It does not shout. It does not announce itself. It does not post evidence online. It moves quietly, almost invisibly, and yet it rearranges a person from the inside out. When you encounter it, it feels unsettling, not because it is loud, but because it is calm. The unsettling part is not the effort, it is the absence of negotiation. Most people believe discipline is about intensity, waking up at 4 a.m., cold showers, extreme routines. But intensity is a spike. Spikes are emotional, and emotions are unstable. The scariest form of discipline is not built on emotion at all. It is built on identity. Underlying our inconsistency is a simple mechanism, dopamine dependence. We are conditioned to chase stimulation, notifications, praise, novelty, micro-rewards. Our brain adapts to constant input, and ordinary effort begins to feel dull. Focus becomes uncomfortable. Repetition feels like punishment. So we seek relief. We call it a break. We call it research. We call it planning. But it is avoidance disguised as productivity. The brain learns quickly. Each time we escape discomfort, it records the shortcut. Each time we choose ease over effort, neural pathways strengthen around that decision. Neuroplasticity does not judge, it simply reinforces what is repeated. Over time, quitting early feels natural. Distraction feels necessary. Discipline feels unnatural. That is why true discipline looks frightening. It interrupts this loop. Consider the philosophy of Dokkōdō, written by Miyamoto Musashi near the end of his life. Musashi was not a motivational figure. He was a swordsman who survived over 60 duels in a violent era. Near death, he composed 21 principles for living alone, without dependency on comfort or approval. One line reads, "Do not seek pleasure for its own sake." That sentence is not poetic, it is surgical. Pleasure is not condemned, dependency is. When pleasure becomes the compass, direction is lost. Modern life makes this dependency invisible. Food is engineered for craving. Platforms are engineered for retention. Workplaces reward appearance as much as output. The self fractures into performance. The scariest discipline rejects this quietly. It does the work whether it feels meaningful or not. It continues whether it is seen or not. It is emotionally neutral. Emotional neutrality is misunderstood. People assume discipline requires aggression. It does not. It requires stability. The Japanese concept of Fudōshin refers to an immovable mind, not rigid, not cold, unshaken by chaos or praise. When circumstances fluctuate, the mind does not chase them, it remains. Imagine someone who trains daily without broadcasting it, who studies without announcing it, who endures boredom without complaint. There is no dramatic narrative, only repetition. This repetition rewires the brain. Dopamine recalibrates. Little progress becomes satisfying again. Focus lengthens. Impulses weaken. Most people never reach this stage because the first phase feels empty. In the beginning, discipline feels like a loss. You lose immediate pleasure. You lose social affirmation. You lose the illusion of rapid transformation. There's no applause for consistency, and so many retreat. They return to stimulation. They explain it as balance. But balance, in practice, often means comfort wins. Comfort dependency is subtle. It hides behind reasonable language. I need to feel inspired. I work better under pressure. I deserve rest. Rest is necessary. Inspiration exists. Pressure can sharpen performance. But when these become prerequisites, discipline collapses. The nervous system learns that discomfort is a threat. Stress tolerance shrinks. Under pressure, fragility appears. You see it in professionals who perform well until criticism arrives, in students who prepare extensively but freeze during evaluation, in creators who begin projects endlessly but rarely finish. The issue is not intelligence, it is emotional regulation. When stress rises, the brain defaults to its strongest conditioning. If avoidance has been practiced more than endurance, avoidance wins. Severe discipline trains the opposite reflex. It deliberately exposes the mind to controlled discomfort, not recklessly, not theatrically. Repetition under mild strain builds resilience. The prefrontal cortex strengthens its influence over impulse. Emotional surges pass without dictating behavior. The body learns that tension is survivable. This is where the confrontation begins. Look honestly at how often plans replace action. How often does research substitute execution? How often does the desire to appear prepared delay starting? Planning feels productive because it reduces anxiety. It creates the illusion of control. But prolonged planning without exposure to difficulty becomes a sedative. Validation seeking operates the same way. We share intentions to receive affirmation before results exist. The brain rewards the announcement as if the work were done. Dopamine is released prematurely. Motivation drops. The cycle resets. Ego preservation deepens the problem. If you never fully commit, failure can be blamed on circumstance. If you remain half invested, identity remains protected. Full effort risks visible inadequacy, so effort is rationed. The scariest discipline removes this protection. It commits completely. It accepts visible imperfection. It continues when the ego is bruised. There is no dramatic self-talk, no inner speeches about destiny, only adherence to a standard. Standards are different from goals. Goals are outcomes. Standards are behaviors repeated regardless of outcome. When identity attaches to standards, behavior stabilizes. I am someone who trains daily is more durable than I want to get fit. Identity-based behavior reduces internal negotiation. The decision is made once, execution repeats. Musashi lived much of his life alone, refining skill without an audience. That isolation was not aesthetic, it was functional. Solitude removes comparison. Without comparison, energy returns to craft. Attention stops scattering. Attention fragmentation is the silent enemy of discipline. Every interruption fractures cognitive momentum. Each switch imposes a neurological cost. Deep work requires sustained focus long enough for the brain to enter complex processing states. Constant stimulation prevents this depth. Superficial engagement becomes the norm. A disciplined mind guards attention aggressively. It reduces optional inputs. It schedules noise exposure rather than reacting to it. This is not asceticism, it is a structural design. Structure eliminates reliance on mood. Mood is volatile because it is influenced by sleep, nutrition, social feedback, hormones, weather, and memory. If productivity depends on mood, output fluctuates wildly. Severe discipline builds routines that operate beneath mood. The body moves at the scheduled time. The page is written at the scheduled hour. The training session occurs regardless of enthusiasm. Enthusiasm becomes irrelevant. At first, this feels mechanical, but over time, freedom increases. Decisions shrink. Cognitive load decreases. Energy previously spent debating is redirected toward performance. Emotional stability improves because outcomes are less personal. The focus shifts to process. This is where fear surfaces. If you adopt such discipline, excuses dissolve. Time cannot be blamed as easily. Circumstances lose power. responsibility sharpens. Many resist discipline not because it is hard, but because it removes ambiguity. Without ambiguity, accountability becomes undeniable. There is also grief involved. You must accept that comfort will be reduced. Some relationships may shift. Idle habits may disappear. Identity evolves. The former self, accustomed to indulgence, protests. That protest is predictable. The brain seeks homeostasis. When routines change, discomfort signals arise. They feel urgent, but urgency does not equal importance. If endured without reaction, they fade. To make this practical, consider a 30-day forging cycle. The first 7 days are a recalibration. Eliminate unnecessary stimulation. Reduce social media to scheduled windows. Remove entertainment during work hours. Maintain consistent sleep. Begin a daily non-negotiable task aligned with your primary aim. It must be small enough to complete, but significant enough to matter. The objective is not intensity, it is consistency. During this phase, dopamine sensitivity begins to reset. Boredom intensifies temporarily. That is expected. Do not fill it. Days 8 through 15 increase exposure. Extend the duration of focused work. Introduce mild, voluntary discomfort, cold showers, longer study blocks, and difficult conversations postponed previously. This trains stress tolerance. Track completion, not emotion. Emotional resistance will fluctuate. Completion must not. Neuroplastic changes occur through repetition under tension. Each completed session strengthens identity. Self-trust grows. Confidence becomes evidence-based rather than imagined. Days 16 through 23 refine standards. Raise the baseline slightly. Improve quality, not just quantity. Seek feedback without defensiveness. Here, cognitive dissonance appears. Feedback may contradict self-image. Instead of retreating, adjust behavior. Discipline without adaptation becomes rigidity. True severity is flexible but firm. The final week integrates silence. Reduce external validation. Do not announce progress. Work privately. Notice the internal shift. Tasks feel less dramatic. Resistance shortens. Focus deepens more quickly. Emotional spikes lessen. At the end of 30 days, nothing spectacular may have occurred externally. No viral success, no dramatic transformation. But internally, negotiation has decreased. Identity has shifted toward reliability. That shift is the frightening part. A person who no longer negotiates with comfort becomes difficult to compete with, not because they are louder, because they are steady. They do not require inspiration. They do not collapse under boredom. They endure. In chaotic environments, they remain calm. In praise, they remain unmoved. In criticism, they adjust rather than react. Fudōshin in practice. Such discipline does not eliminate emotion, it contextualizes it. Fear is felt, but does not dictate. Fatigue is acknowledged, but not obeyed immediately. Desire is observed, but not automatically indulged. This distance between impulse and action is power. Many imagine this life as joyless. It is not. Pleasure returns in subtler forms. Satisfaction emerges from completion. Respect grows quietly. Sleep deepens when effort is honest. Anxiety reduces when avoidance decreases. There is peace in alignment. Yet the cost remains high. You cannot drift. You cannot rely on bursts of motivation. You cannot construct elaborate identities online while neglecting substance offline. The discipline demands congruence. Time amplifies everything. Years of comfort dependency create fragility. Years of steady effort create capability. The frightening realization is that both paths are gradual. No single day feels decisive, but accumulation is merciless. Look at your routines without drama. Observe where you escape discomfort. Notice how often you reach for stimulation when focus wavers. See the patterns without self-hatred. Clarity is enough. Then, decide once. Not daily, not emotionally. Decide on the standard you will uphold, even when unseen. Reduce the variables that undermine it. Protect attention. Expose yourself to manageable strain. Repeat. You will lose certain pleasures. You will lose certain illusions. You may lose the version of yourself that required constant reassurance. What remains is steadier. In the end, the fear surrounding extreme discipline is not about effort. It is about permanence. If you truly change your standards, you cannot comfortably return to mediocrity. The old excuses will sound hollow, the old distractions will feel shallow, and time will continue moving. There is no dramatic soundtrack to that movement. Days pass quietly, opportunities close quietly, potential decays quietly when unused, or it strengthens quietly when exercised. The scariest discipline is simply this: a mind that has chosen its path and refuses to renegotiate with comfort, even when no one is watching. Nothing announces it, but everything changes because of it.